If you want to know how to not feel hungry, even when you're on a very, very strict diet, then be sure to stick around, because in this video I'm going to share with you some of the tips and tricks that I've learnt to suppress hunger so that we can stay on our diets for longer and get the weight loss results that we deserve. So this is what worked for me. I hope it works even better for you. Let's start off with the basics. In order to lose weight, 99% of the time we have to adjust how we eat. And generally speaking, this means we have to cut down the number of calories we eat each day to then give our bodies the reason to start dipping into our fat reserves for fuel and therefore slim down. The problem with this, as anyone will know if they've ever been on a very strict diet, is that as soon as we get into this situation where we're eating less calories than we're burning each day, something called a calorie deficit, we suddenly get very, very hungry. And the urge to then reach for that snack we know we shouldn't be eating just gets greater and greater, until eventually we give in, we eat the snack, we fall off the diet, and then we have to start all over again. But it doesn't have to be this way. There are ways that you can suppress your hunger so you can stay on your diet for longer. So what are they? And what can you do to implement these? Let's start off with a really simple but very effective way. And this is to adjust what you eat, specifically protein. Protein is really good for you. It helps build muscle, it helps tissue repair, it helps with your skin, your hair, your nails, all sorts of different things. But on top of this, protein is highly satiating, which basically means that it takes a long time for your body to digest it, and therefore it keeps you feeling fuller for longer. So to limit how hungry we feel when we're on our diets, we should try and prioritize protein in every single meal. And this could be adding chicken breast, or it could be adding salmon, or chickpeas and lentils if you're vegetarian, right? Introducing some sort of protein to every meal will then make us feel fuller after every single meal, which will massively help with sticking to your diet. Now, although not a protein, but linked to this idea is fiber. Fiber is also highly satiating, so it's a great food to prioritize. Foods that are high in fiber are things like nuts and seeds and leafy vegetables, fruit, right? Healthy stuff. Now, if you can find a way to have a lot more protein and a lot more fiber into your diet, and maybe even doing this at the same time, then you're really on to a winner here. A great way to do this is to focus on foods that do have high protein and high fiber, things like overnight oats. So I've been incorporating this into my diet over the last few weeks, and I have to say, I do feel a lot fuller for longer after having my overnight oats. So if this is something you're interested in, basically it's protein powder with oats with lots of extra stuff. If you're interested in that, then just YouTube for overnight oat recipes and find the one you think you'd like. Now, eating highly satiating foods is great, but it's even more powerful when you link it to meal timing as well. Spacing out your meals so that you never go more than a few hours without food is obviously a great way to curb hunger. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that you can now eat more just because you're having more meals. You still need to take your total number of calories for the day and split it up between these meals. But just making sure that you never go a few hours without eating is going to massively help with hunger. Now, what about fasting? Absolutely, completely agree. Fasting is a tool that you can use for weight loss, right? Some people absolutely swear by fasting and all the benefits that it can bring. And it's true, it can help, but it's also not for everyone. I've tried fasting, I've tried not fasting, and for me personally, I didn't really see much of a difference. So I don't think that fasting is some sort of magic bullet. And if you personally are struggling with feeling hungry, then I would suggest you do just space out your meals. That's probably what's going to work for you the best. Now, before we get on to the next tip, if you're enjoying this video, if you're getting value from this, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would be great to see you again. Another thing we can focus on to feel less hungry is staying hydrated. Quite often when we get these feelings of hunger, we're actually not hungry, we're just thirsty. But we're not very good at distinguishing between the feeling of hunger and the feeling of thirst. If we make sure that we stay hydrated, we drink liters and liters of water each day, then we're not going to have this situation where we're misinterpreting signals. An easy way to stay hydrated is just to make sure that before every single meal we have a big glass of water. One, this is going to help us get our liters in for the day, and two, it's also going to fill up our belly a little bit before we even start eating, which will probably help with overeating, overindulgence at that meal. On top of this, staying hydrated helps with muscle function, it helps with mental function, it helps boost your immune system. So it really is a no-brainer here. Staying hydrated is just really important, so definitely something to consider focusing on. Now this last tip is a little bit counterintuitive, and this is to make our diet food less tasty. I don't mean make the diet food taste horrible, obviously that's not going to help. I'm saying try not to focus so much on making the food as tasty as possible. It's something I fell for when I first started weight loss, and it makes perfect sense, right? If you only have a certain number of calories for the day, of course you're going to try and make every single calorie taste as good as possible. But actually, I think that making food simpler is probably the better way to go here. If our food tastes too good, then it's just going to lead to overindulging, right? It's going to be very difficult to stick to our portion control. Simpler tasting food is just going to help us only eat the food we need to stop feeling hungry. Also, foods that are generally tastier have higher levels of salt, of sugar, of fats, and all of these can be addictive, so this can just lead to cravings and urges for more food. But I think the key one here is that when our diet food is simpler, we're less likely to obsess over this food. We're less likely to be counting down the minutes until our next meal. And I think this is really important because it helps build a better relationship with food, whereby we eat food for its nutritious value rather than to get some sort of short-term high. And I think in the long run, this is really helpful in building consistency and building that healthier lifestyle. So that's what I've got for you today. I really hope this helps you with suppressing your hunger so you can stick to your diet for longer and get the weight loss results that you deserve. Now, earlier in the video, we talked about protein, and that's why I would recommend you watch this video next. In this video, I talk about how you can easily eat over 150 grams of protein every single day. It is my most popular video, so I'm sure you'll get a lot of value out of that video. And with that being said, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.